Ron? Where are you? Where is Ron right now? You done messed up, Ron!
I just snorted. Ron is right here. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Dr. David Minkoff done messed up. Scientologist physician, Dr. David Minkoff done messed up. When Dr. David Minkoff out of Clearwater, Florida, when he's not bringing about the demise of his patients through his medical malpractice, he's discriminating against employees with disabilities and getting sued for it in federal court. We have an interesting merging of worlds here. One world being the world of Whitney Mills, a Scientologist here in Clearwater, who I've done some videos about recently. I have to choose my language carefully, especially this early on in a video, in order to appease our YouTube overlords. Whitney Mills is a Scientologist who, after achieving the level of OT8, ended her existence in this world while under the care or miscare. Is that a word? I don't know, guys. I grew up in a cult. Under the care of David Minkoff. Anyway, I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Let me share the screen with you. I should have lined this up ahead of time here, this part of it. Okay, so let me see. Best way to do this. This is pretty good. Okay, check this out. This is Dr. David Minkoff. I've known Dr. Minkoff for a very long time. I know his wife. I know his two sons. His daughter, Rebecca Minkoff, is the famous purse designer, Rebecca Minkoff, all very dedicated Scientologists. His wife is Sue. His sons are Uri and Max. I know his son's wife, his other son ever got married? Yeah, both sons got married. Anyway, this is Dr. David Minkoff. Any of you Scientology watchers who, here, I'll go back to a better view here, who are familiar with the devastating case of Lisa McPherson, a Scientologist who was held against her will, really, at Scientology's Fort Harrison Hotel in Clearwater, Florida, and was held there after having a mental breakdown. She had been checked into Morton Plant Hospital in downtown Clearwater. Scientologists went in and checked her out of the hospital and checked her into the Fort Harrison Hotel. The next time Lisa McPherson would leave the Fort Harrison Hotel, she would die while en route to Dr. Minkoff's office. For Dr. Minkoff's role in all of that, his license was suspended for a year, I believe. He was sent out to California by Scientology to basically serve out his time there until things chilled off in Clearwater. Now Dr. Minkoff's back in Clearwater. Minkoff has now been involved, as I just alluded to, involved in another preventable death of a Scientologist in Whitney Mills. Because I've been covering what happened with Whitney Mills, and I was actually in the process of putting together an additional video on that subject, in the process of searching for legal issues relating to Dr. Minkoff, I found he's being sued for discrimination. And I'm going to discuss that suit with you here. So Dr. David Minkoff, this is the site, just so you see, it's his site, it's his face. If we then go to Life Works Wellness Center, that is the name of the company. I guess he probably owns more than one LLC, but Life Works Wellness Center is the entity that's being sued. You can see Dr. David Minkoff is the medical director of that company. He's the sole owner and CEO. Here, by the way, is a screenshot of one of the videos I did on the subject of Whitney Mills, but specifically about David Minkoff. Scientology and David Minkoff played active role in Whitney Mills' death. There's much more to come on that subject, by the way. Okay, so what I found here in Pacer is a lawsuit. Now, I don't know the right way to pronounce this woman's last name. I don't know if it's Lucier, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going with Lucier. Lucier versus LifeWorks Wellness Center, LLC. We can see it was originally filed in October of 2021. That was the complaint. I believe it was 9 months later, in July of 2022, the amended complaint was filed. And this case is set to go to trial. There have been a lot of back and forth on this, just scrolling through. Pretrial statements, proposed jury instructions, proposed verdict form, proposed voir dire, pretrial conference, trial brief, stipulations. There was even something filed yesterday in this case. Okay, so I'm just showing you this because what I'm going to show you guys real quick is the amended complaint. Okay, this is being tried in federal court here in Tampa, Florida. This case is being brought under the Equal Opportunity and EEOC, Equal Opportunity. I don't know what it means, guys. I grew up in a cult. I'm sorry, I totally forget. But here we go. Let me just read through this. Amended complaint and demand for jury trial. Make this a little bigger here. Why not? Plaintiff Michelle Lucier, by and through the undersigned counsel, hereby sues defendant LifeWorks Wellness Center, LLC, and alleges as follows. I'm not going to read every word in this thing. This court has federal subject matter jurisdiction over these claims. As plaintiff states a claim for damages under the Americans with Disabilities Act, the court may assert supplemental jurisdiction over the state law claim. Okay, I'm not going to read all of that. Parties, Lucier was and is a resident of Pinellas County, Florida. At all times material to this action, LifeWorks was a limited liability corporation located in Pinellas, Florida. At all times material to this action, Lucier was an employee of defendant pursuant to the terms of all applicable statutes, and defendant was the employer of Lucier pursuant to the terms of all applicable statutes. General allegations, defendant is a health clinic. Lucier began working for defendant on or around September 7, 2007. Lucier held the position of public relations and marketing manager. Lucier reported to Tamora German, the office manager, and Lucier's direct supervisor. So this is Tamora German, just on a Facebook search. Interestingly enough, I find no evidence that Tamora is a Scientologist. Personally, I find that surprising. Okay, in or around June 2019, Lucier was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Lucier sought and received medical leave as an accommodation for her new disability. Following this diagnosis, Lucier underwent major surgery to treat her cancer. While she was in the hospital, Lucier kept up with her work remotely and stayed in regular contact with her supervisors, including Tamora German and Dr. David Minkoff, the medical director. Lucier was discharged from the hospital on July 2, 2019, 7 days after her surgery. Her surgeon provided her with documentation which stated she would be disabled for 3 months due to the surgery and incapable of employment during that period. Lucier wanted to return to work as soon as possible and was able to return in person on July 10, 2019, after receiving an accommodation to work on a part-time basis from 8 a.m. to noon as she continued to recover from her surgery. Okay, so let's see. Wow, she returned to work only 7 days after being discharged, even though the doctor said she'd be disabled for 12 weeks. That is incredible. That is incredible. That is an employee who is committed to doing her job, not resting on her laurels, not using a medical excuse. I'm not even saying these things derogatorily, but I'm saying she would have been completely within her right to do nothing for 12 weeks, and she returned to work 9 days later. Unbelievable. When she returned to work, Lucier was visibly changed. She had lost 25 pounds in 3 weeks, could not go up and down stairs, was weak and tired easily. Upon return to working on site part-time, Lucier was told by Tamora German that she would no longer be managing the 2 employees she had previously managed. Okay. Lucier was also informed by Miss German that she would no longer have remote access to her email and was asked to copy Miss German on every email she sent. No longer having remote access. I mean, that's, if you're an employee, you know what's coming when your remote access to email gets cut off. Additionally, Lucier was informed by Ms. German that Dr. David Minkoff wanted Lucier to make up the time that she had spent in the hospital since she had been given paid leave and was told she owed 88 hours of work to the defendant. I'm trying to figure out how to switch my view here. Oh, dear God. As soon as I read that sentence, it's not the first time I'm reading this complaint. That is 100% how a Scientologist would think, act, and conduct themselves. You have to make up the time. In Scientology, okay, I'm going to save the Scientology lesson until I will finish reading this complaint. But I mean, Scientology or no Scientology, the complaint pretty much stands, on its own here. Okay. I mean, just get the contradiction here, though. I mean, I'm sure I don't have to spell this out, but like, Dr. Minkoff wants you to make up the time since you'd been given paid leave. Well, it's not exactly paid leave if you're expected to make up the time. Now, is it? It's a contradiction. And thus, I mean, that's not the only reason for this lawsuit, but that contradiction itself, to me, that like really gives this lawsuit, well, this lawsuit probably has teeth regardless of this one point that I'm talking about right here. But you can't say that you gave someone paid leave and say, by the way, you have to make up those hours. Only a Scientologist would think that way, because that's how Scientology organizations work, by the way. Okay. 21. When Lucier said this would be very difficult to make up, especially given her continued recovery due to her cancer and surgery, Lucier was told by Miss German that she'd spoken with Dr. Minkoff about the challenge of making up these hours. And defendant, that's Dr. Minkoff, would not be paying her weekly bonus until she had paid back the money she had received while in the hospital and recovering from surgery. Paid back in quotes, meaning paid back the money by working unpaid hours to make up the paid hours she received while in hospital. Unfreaking believable. These adverse changes were made. Wait. Okay, these adverse changes. I guess we're talking about adverse changes of no longer supervising those two people and having her access to her email cut off and no longer being eligible to be paid your weekly bonus until you made up the 88 hours. These adverse changes were made due to Lucier's disability and in retaliation for Lucier's requests for the reasonable accommodations, reasonable accommodations being the initial leave and then a part-time schedule. Due to all of these adverse changes to her employment, Lucier asked Miss German about her job security and was told by Miss German that her job was safe and that Miss German would tell her as a friend if there were anything to worry about and that no such conversations had occurred. Yes, your direct supervisor at work is always your friend and looking out for your best interests. Lucier was not informed of any performance or disciplinary concerns and continued to work as diligently as always. On July 26th, 2019, Lucier returned to working full-time hours. Again, incredible. That's an incredible accelerated convalescence. I may have grown up in a cult, but I know some big words. Most of the big words that I learned in Scientology, of which convalescence is one, believe it or not. Okay. She was still recovering from her surgery and seeking further treatment for her cancer. And she tried more easily. And she tired more easily than she had before she was disabled. Lucier again asked Miss German about her job security as she felt more of her responsibilities were being taken away and was again told by Miss German that there was nothing to worry about and that she would tell Lucier if there were any discussions about replacing her. Lucier was not informed of any performance or disciplinary concerns upon inquiring into the security of her position. Around the same time that she returned to full-time hours, Lucier's oncologist informed her that she would need to undergo a round of chemotherapy and that without chemotherapy, she would have a life expectancy of 5 years, which Lucier relayed to her supervisor, Miss German. Lucier's supervisor appeared shocked by this information regarding the seriousness of her prognosis. On July 30th, 2019, Lucier worked a long day. And due to the effects such a long day had on her health, on July 31st, Lucier asked Miss German for permission to leave work at noon to go home and rest and was given that permission by her supervisor. The following day, Lucier was terminated. Unbelievable. No reason was given for the termination at the time other than it was just not working out. Just not working out. After 12 years of employment, oh, by the way, your cancer It's just not working for us. Okay. Defendant has previously stated in correspondence to the Pinellas County Office of Human Rights that plaintiff was given accommodations due to her disability. This includes time off before and after her surgery and a part-time work schedule when she returned. In addition, it became clear to LifeWorks, based on the discussion about Luciere's prognosis on July 26th and her need to rest following a long workday on July 30th, that she would require further treatment for her cancer and that she would require ongoing accommodations to modify her work schedule, like the one she had received on July 31st. Prior to her cancer diagnosis and surgery, Luciere had only taken a handful of sick days in her 11-year career. Luciere's request for time off to care for her health as a reasonable accommodation was an unwelcome change to defendant, which led defendant to retaliate against Luciere. Additionally, Luciere's changed appearance due to her illness concerned LifeWorks, who strive to provide a healthy and strong image to the public. Prior to her cancer diagnosis and surgery, there had been no documented discipline issues or performance concerns associated with Luciere. When Luciere discussed the adverse changes made to her employment and specifically asked about her job security, she was led to believe her job was secure and that there were no issues to address. Defendant's alleged policy of accommodating disabled employees was a sham. For when it became clear that LifeWorks would need to further accommodate Luciere, she was terminated. While Luciere was not given a reason for her termination, defendant now claims she was terminated for violating company policy and ethics. Go figure. A Scientologist getting rid of someone and then claiming they were the ones in violation of ethics standards. Subsequent to her termination, Luciere learned that defendant claims that while she was on medical leave, her employer opened an investigation into her work performance. Oh, this is so typical. The same thing happened to me at the Scientology job I had before I was declared an SP. I'll give us some information on that in a minute. Luciere was not informed of this investigation or interviewed as part of it, nor was she given any opportunity to respond to any findings or allegations made as part of this investigation, because there was no investigation. In fact, Luciere did not know about any investigation until well after her termination during the pre-suit administrative process through the Pinellas County Office of Human Rights, at which point she did provide a response to the allegations being made about her work ethics and performance. If there was an investigation into Luciere, it was conducted in retaliation for her seeking medical leave. Exactly. And further accommodations as she treated her cancer and recovered from her surgery. No, the investigation was totally just to create a pretext to let her go, to avoid a lawsuit like this. I guess it didn't occur to Dr. David Minkoff how ridiculously transparent that would be. Okay. We don't need to go through all of this right now. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Some of this is just kind of self-evident at this point. I'm not trying not to be too redundant. Rather than continue to accommodate a longtime employee who was newly diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer, defendant chose to retaliate against her for seeking these disability-related accommodations by creating a pretextual reason to terminate her. Oh, there you go. They used the same big word I used. Defendant did not want to continue to employ Luciere, a longtime employee, now that she was visibly changed due to her disability, and has sought and would continue to seek reasonable accommodations to her disability. At all times material to this action, Luciere had a disability. At all times material to this action, Luciere was a qualified individual. At all times material to this action, Luciere could perform the essential functions of her job with or without accommodation. All administrative notice requirements and prerequisites have been satisfied. Luciere received a cause determination from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and the Pinellas County Office of Human Rights, finding the defendant violated the law. Luciere received a notice of right to sue, and this lawsuit is being filed within 90 days of the issuance of the notice. Okay, excellent. Excellent. That might be everything that I want to read on this. Just quick. Oh, okay, here we go. As a result of the defendant's unlawful discrimination, plaintiff has suffered and continues to suffer damages. Wherefore, plaintiff prays for the following damages against defendant: back pay and benefits, front pay and benefits, compensatory damages, punitive damages, interest, reasonable attorney fees and costs, any other relief this court or the jury deems just and equitable. And there you go. Okay. Okay. We're not going to read all this. We're not going to read all this. I don't know. That's okay. There we go. So I will go back to regular view. Da da da. Okay. Well, there's two things I want to discuss. Maybe three. Is it not ironic that a physician would discriminate against an employee for health reasons? Am I just being totally naive to think that a physician would be a little more understanding of the need to accommodate employees regarding health issues? I mean, would you expect a physician to be a little more conversant with the laws regarding the American with Disabilities Act and like letting someone go after 12 years because their cancer diagnosis is making it hard for them to work quite as many hours as they did before? I mean, I know that just because you're a physician doesn't mean you're more, familiar with employment law necessary. It just seems to me that because this is employment law specifically relating to health issues, again, it might just be ignorance on my part to think that a physician would somehow be more familiar with all that kind of stuff. And I also had an experience working for Kurt Feshbach at Falcon Research back in, I started working for him in 2009. Around 2013 is when Scientology was getting ready to declare me a suppressive person for not disconnecting from my mother, who had earlier been declared a suppressive person. I had been a stellar employee, one of his only key employees. Well, his only key employee at Falcon Research for 5 years. There had never been anything other than a plan for me to eventually succeed Kurt when he wanted to move out of the business. And as soon as Scientology decided they were actually going to move forward with declaring me, they figured, Kurt Feshbach is a VIP in Scientology. Aaron's his main guy at Falcon Research. We need to give Kurt the time that he needs to figure out how to get rid of Aaron before we declare him. Because if we declare Aaron first, and then Kurt fires Aaron, Aaron's going to sue Kurt, no question. So once, similar to what this woman experienced, like out of the blue, there's an investigation. So out of the blue, I find out when I was working for Kurt, this is late 2013 at this point, that an investigation has been opened into me for creating a hostile workplace environment. To anybody who knows Kurt Feshbach, you know how funny that is. Okay, working for Kurt Feshbach is a hostile work environment. and also Scientologists, when you're tight, like it's a tight-knit community, right? And not only is Scientology a tight-knit community, but these Scientologist run businesses are very tight-knit, Axiom, Postcard Mania, Know Before, I'm trying to think of other like Auto Loop. They operate more like Scientology clubs than they do actual. It's more of a Scientology club than it is a normal corporate environment. So to be told that you're under investigation for creating a hostile workplace environment, you're like, what? Like, you just know immediately it's a setup. And so I instantly contacted an attorney, and no one at Falcon Research, Kurt Feshbach, Bryn Wesh, no, Sean Strickland, none of these guys, even up until this day, have ever known that this was true. I'm actually saying this for the first time. As soon as I heard an investigation had been opened into me at Falcon Research, I contacted an attorney and recorded and saved every interaction that I had with everyone in the company from that point forward. And when I was finally brought into Kurt's office with Kurt Feshbach and Bryn Wesh there to be informed that I was being laid off, not fired, laid off. They were choosing to go a different direction. I audio recorded the entire meeting, and I let them say all the BS they had to say in that meeting. And at the end, I said, you guys do know that I know that everything you just said is a complete lie, right? And they're like, what? I said, you guys know that I know Scientology has given you the heads up that they're going to declare me, right? And they're like, Aaron, are you in trouble with the church? What? This is the first we're hearing of it. And I go, okay, all right, we can drop this charade, okay? And I went to my office and I packed up all my stuff and I left. By the way, I'll do the question and answer. I'll address the super chats in the comments at the end of the video, just so everyone knows. And I too went to the equal opportunity. I keep wanting to call it the Equal Opportunity Employment Center, but I know that's not what it's called. It's the EEOC. Let me look it up here. EEOC. The U.S. Department, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Okay. And I too received an approval from the EEOC. I don't know if approval is the right word. It's almost like they blessed the lawsuit. I was given permission by them to sue Kurt Feshbach with their backing. I was like, okay, good, because I'm going to sue this MFer big time. Like, you're not going to screw me like this, and nothing's going to happen. I mean, you know, they tried to offer me like a $15,000. Was it $15,000 check to basically, and then in order to collect the check, it was my severance package. But in order to collect the check, you had to sign an agreement promising never to sue and everything. So I was like, keep your $15,000 and shove it up your little bunghole. I can't say, I don't want to, I'm careful with my curse words these days, thanks to our YouTube overlords. And so anyway, after going through the whole process and consulting with the attorneys, I said, you know, I've gone into business for myself. Oh, they're like, how do you specify the damages? And they're like, how much income have you lost? And I said, well, actually, I'm in business for myself now, and I'm actually making more money. And they're like, oh, well, you can still sue, but there won't be any damages. And I'm like, and there's no punitive damages or something like this. And I was like, so then there's no reason to sue. And like, you'd basically just be tied up in a lawsuit for several years, and you're already making more money anyway. So you're not going to get any damages. And so don't bother. And so I didn't bother. But when I see this language in this lawsuit and I see how Dr. Minkoff was setting her up to let her go, it just rings, you know, it kind of resonates with everything I experienced at Falcon Research under Kurt Feshbach. Now in Scientology, they have what they call the 4 conditions of exchange. And the first condition of exchange is called no exchange or criminal exchange. And that's, you know, you take something and you take something of value, you provide nothing of value. That's called criminal exchange. Then there's partial exchange. And that's basically you're an employee who, I mean, okay, partial exchange. You take something of value, but you provide something, but it's not of equal value to what you took. I mean, these are stupid, simple ideas. Then there's fair exchange, which is you get something of value and you provide what's expected. And L. Ron Hubbard says that is what most Homo sapiens believe is the correct condition of exchange. But in Scientology, we have the 4th condition of exchange. We call it exchange in abundance. You receive something of value, but you provide something of greater value or better than expected. And that is the only true condition of exchange for any organization to succeed or individual, So this is ingrained. This is like some of the core beliefs of Scientologists. Partial exchange or no exchange is actually, as defined by L. Ron Hubbard, criminal. This is why Scientologists don't give money to homeless people. Scientologists believe that if you give someone something and you don't allow them to exchange commensurate to or in excess to what you've given them, you actually force them to be criminal, that they believe you're actually making homeless people criminal by giving them money. This is why you're never going to see a Scientology homeless shelter. You're never going to see a Scientologist soup kitchen. You'll never see Scientologists volunteering at homeless shelters or soup kitchens. They look down on anyone who needs and receives help without essentially working for it. And that is how Scientologists think. It is ingrained into the DNA of Scientologists. So you see that reflected in these Scientologist-owned businesses. Oh, I gave you a medical leave. Now you have to give me those hours back. You're like, what? That's not how the law works, but okay. And yeah, it still does surprise me that someone like Dr. David Minkoff, who's already gotten a lot of hot water, he's created a lot of problems for Scientology. He's created a lot of problems for himself. There's a lot more of those problems coming down the pipeline. This Whitney Mills thing is not going to go away, I promise you. The only reason you haven't seen more about it in the media is they are doing a lot of background research and homework, is my understanding, to really do this story correctly. David Minkoff is responsible for the death of another Scientologist. That's 2 deaths that will become public flaps. I hesitate to use the word flap because I always think it's a Scientology word, but it's not. It's just a word that's very popular in Scientology. Dr. David Minkoff keeps killing people through his medical malpractice and negligence. And now not only he could be in trouble in a criminal nature, but he's in trouble for a civil matter of a completely unrelated issue. So that's all I really wanted to share with you guys. Just wanted to get that out there. Wanted the world to know the new Dr. Minkoff news. And I wanted Scientology to know that I know. And I wanted Dr. Minkoff to know that I know. And I want them to know that I'll be following the updates in the trial. And yeah. Okay, let's jump to the chats. And then we'll wrap this up. All right, here we go. Dave Owens, very smart to try it in federal court. I'd have trouble trusting local courts near Clearwater. Yes. And Dave, I could be wrong on this, and I'll talk to my my lawyer friend, Zach Morgan, about all this stuff. I believe the reason it's being tried in federal court is because the lawsuit has the blessing of the EEOC. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. What do I know, guys? I just grew up in a cult, but that is my understanding. I don't think it was necessary. Can you really just pick and choose which court you want to try it in? I don't think that's how it works, is it? So, but the involvement of the EEOC, I believe, is a federal agency, and I believe that's why it's being tried in federal court. Thanks for the super chat, Dave. Another David here, David Roberts, thank you for all you're doing to expose this cult. Blessings sent for your continued success. Well, thank you very much, David Roberts. It is truly, truly my pleasure. Marjan Kaikavusky. Marjan Kaikavusky. Everyone thank Goldie for all that she does. Yes, Goldie, the moderator sent from above. Goldie is, in fact, the only moderator on this channel. She's the only person I've ever made a moderator. I've had some other people offer to be moderators, but I figured, you know what? Unless Goldie asks for the help, I'm going to leave Goldie as the only moderator. So, Goldie, if you do ever need some help, let me know, and I'll task some other people as moderators as well. Thank you, Marjan. Okay, Dave Owens, can you explain the fair exchange teaching? Thanks. Well, there you go, Dave. A great minds think alike, or whatever the saying is. We covered that ground, and yeah. Even in Scientology, if you put in a request for time off, part of your solution that you're supposed to propose in order before your senior can approve your request is how you're going to make up the time. There's really no such thing as just asking for time off and having it be time off, because it's not really time off if you're making up the time. Just one of those things in Scientology that doesn't make any sense. Sherry Miles, thank you so much. Ken's channel. Of course, Minkoff would do that. She's not a Scientologist, and she should know better to audit her cancer away. Oh, boy. She's not a Scientologist, and she should know better to audit her cancer away. Duh. Yeah, for any of you watching, Scientologists at the upper levels of Scientology's Bridge to Total Freedom, particularly at OT5 and above, believe that the way to get rid of cancer is to audit away the body thetans that are stuck to you and are causing your cancer. It's absolutely insane. And the fact that Scientologists believe this is why, in many cases, they wait much too long to go get diagnosed, or even if they're diagnosed, they wait much too long to get actual medical interventions. And it's why so many freaking Scientologists die of cancer. Thank you, Ken's channel. Love it. Can you give us a list of Church of Scientology businesses? Love it. That would actually be very, very difficult to do. And I've explained before why I'm not quite comfortable doing that. Like if you're a Scientologist and you just have some, sort of family-run business, and it's how you make enough money to pay the bills, and you're, middle class, upper middle class, living, and you're not giving millions of dollars to Scientology. I don't really want people to like boycott businesses like that. And it's everyone's choice if they want to do that or not do that. But I don't really want to be putting a list together being like, hey, if anyone wants to boycott any company owned by a Scientologist, like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't feel right to me. Now, there's very, very large companies that are worth mentioning, like ABC Mouse or Know Before or Postcard Mania, that generate tens of millions to hundreds of millions of dollars for their owners, and a good portion of that money goes to Scientology. And I think it's fair to have conversations about that. But when it comes to publishing like comprehensive lists of every Scientologist-owned business, I just don't like that. Thank you for the comment or the question there, though. Thank you very much. Christine, loved you on Concrete. Question, how do you know if someone who contacts the Aftermath Foundation isn't a mole? Christine, thank you very much. For anyone wondering, Concrete, spelled with a K, is the name of a podcast. Someone's calling me. Decline. Okay, is the name of a podcast. It's on YouTube. It's everywhere. And they're local to me, about 20 minutes away. And we did a sit-down 2 or 3 hour interview that you can see on their channel. The guy who runs that channel's name's Danny. So if you type in Aaron Smith-Levin, Concrete with a K, you'll hear a fantastic conversation that we had. And pretty soon, hopefully sooner than later, you'll get to see another fantastic conversation that I had about Scientology with an extremely large podcast based out of Austin that hasn't published yet, but hopefully will publish soon. Okay, how do you know if someone who contacts the Aftermath Foundation isn't a mole? So here's the thing. A mole, by definition, is someone who's trying to get information. If someone contacted us and they're a mole, they're not going to get any information from us. We're there to help other people. We're here to help them. We make people jump through hoops to prove to us that they are who they are. It is almost impossible to fake a Scientology story. Yeah, we also have people, if we're going to be providing financial assistance, we have people sign certain forms that protect us just in case they are in fact a mole. And that's really just as an added layer of protection. We would never disperse funds without being 100% confident that somebody is not a mole. But, just in case, we have forms signed. So thank you, Christine. I very much appreciate the super chat. Okay, let me see. Got another one here. Cody Harkins. With the SEC pressing charges against the LDS Church for not disclosing assets, do you think the Church of Scientology might face a similar fate? Thank you very much, Cody. I've received so many messages about this. I haven't read the articles to know the details. My knee-jerk reaction here, my gut answer would be Scientology doesn't really need to hide assets. And that's why I'm confused why the LDS Church would hide assets. What's the point of hiding assets when you're tax exempt? So the whole thing sort of confuses me. I haven't read the articles though. And yet I would still say, I don't believe Scientology has a reason to hide assets. I don't believe they are hiding assets. Mike Rinder has not alluded to anything like that. And that's my answer to that question. If Scientology is hiding assets, then this is great precedent. There are other things that are going to bring Scientology down. Believe me, it's not hiding assets though. Thank you for the question, Cody. Much appreciated. Okay, Dave Owens again. Never mind on explaining exchange. You covered it. Yes, indeed. Thank you again, David. Okay, let's see. Okay. Any update on the time of the podcast release? So what it comes down to is it did not occur to me to ask the person who interviewed me How many other people have you already interviewed but not published yet? It didn't even occur to me. And now that it has occurred to me, I'm not going to ask because it's rude. And, you know, I don't even schedule my videos or live streams. So I guess I was just, again, very naive of me to think that this massive podcaster would just be doing everything flying, you know, by the seat of their pants. When in retrospect, you're like, of course, that's not how he does it. Of course, he's got a bunch in the pipeline. And I'm simply not going to ask. I want to, but I'm not going to. And that's the update. Like any day now, but I've been saying any day now for 2 weeks. So believe me, every day I'm checking. Every single day. All right, here we go. M. Adams, ever caught a fake help request through the Aftermath Foundation? Oh, we get so many bogus help requests through the Aftermath Foundation. So many. The majority of the requests that we receive are bogus. Now, when I say bogus, I don't mean someone pretending to be a Scientologist and we find out they're lying. That's only happened a few times. I mean, someone who's like, I've never been in Scientology, but I once knew a Scientologist and now they're hacking my phones and they're hacking my emails and they're getting me fired from my job and that kind of stuff. So those are fake help requests. Thank you for the question. All right, here we go. Love it. Okay, please, can you list big Church of Scientology businesses? That is something that I think is worth doing. I'm not sure that I'm going to take the time to do it, but it is worth doing. And if anyone else does put it together, if anyone else out there, anyone, Scientologist, former Scientologist, never a Scientologist, whatever, does want to put together a list of large Scientology companies and send it to me, I'll double check it and verify it. And I'd be happy to do a video about that. I think that's worth doing. I just don't see myself taking the time to do the research on that. So thank you very much, everybody. Okay, guys, that's it. That is it. 42 minutes. How has it already been 42 minutes? I guess I need to talk faster. I know some people like the longer videos, but oh well, what's done is done. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for hanging in there with me here. I didn't mean to do a whole 42 minutes. But yeah, thanks for watching and listening. Thanks to everybody who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe